Yes, we are before special moments. Soon you are going to listen to the testimony of faith by the President of the Republic of Hungary. János Áder follows the issues of the Congress. He is the President of the Social Commission, which prepares the event. It was his idea to publishing a book entitled "Looking at the Sky," which is a compilation of the Hungarian religious poems, but he is going to speak about it himself. Mr. President, the floor is yours. I think that this ovation was for Ferenc Czakó, the former artist. I greet you, everybody. His Eminence Cardinal Péter Erdő, Eminences, Patriarchs, Excellencies, Bishops, Archbishops, religious people, faithful ladies and gentlemen. In our lives, we can encounter unexpected moments, which have basic influence on our lives. And they become a memory, a story of a life, a work of art, an impression. Why all this happened to us? Why the events happened like this? Why all this happened to us? We often tend to ask, was it by chance? It was by chance. This is one of the answer. This is the will of God, according to the other answer. I'd like to share 3 stories with you. First in an interrogative way, the second in an affirmative way, and the third in a reflecting way. The title of the first could be Visit in the Vatican. The second, what is a course of rhetorics good for? The third, can they have the same message? Can Salvador Dali and Sándor Vörös, Hungarian poet, can have the same message? A painter and a poet, a picture and a poem. And let's see the stories. In 2013, the autumn, we prepared to an official visit to Rome in Vatican. At that time, when we prepare to an official visit of this kind, we try to speak about the topic of the negotiations, about the protocol, and the present, the gift we would take. And we look at the former guests, what kind of gifts was given by the former guests from Hungary. This happened at that time. My colleagues started to look for the presents. We chose 2 gifts. One was a beautiful silver cup made by a famous artist, Attila József. The second is the Hungarian translation of the Epistles of St. Paul. Benedek Komjádi published it in 1953, and only 2 volumes remained. The reprint issue, by chance, was prepared some weeks before the visit to Vatican. Why we had 3 gifts? Why the water became the third gift? after the conception of the idea, it was quite clear that we're going to take holy water from a shrine, a Hungarian shrine. Okay, but according to Wikipedia, there are some 27 shrines in Hungary where some holy spring can be found. And now the questions. Is it by chance that the third gift was chosen, the holy water from Mátraverbély Szent Kút shrine? We could have chosen 26 other places. Is it by chance when I read the newspaper on the plane flying towards Rome? I read in the newspaper that this shrine we chose is being renewed. Is it by chance that when I introduced my family to His Holiness, to the Pope, he opens the bottle which contained the holy water of the shrine, and with this water he makes the signs of the cross on the front of each of us? Is it by chance that in this meeting our main topic is the protection of the created world, the protection of our waters? Is it by chance that the Holy Father expresses the first time for everybody that he prepares to issue an encyclical in the topic of creation care? Is it by chance that I could be the first person who could inform the press about that? Is it by chance that 10 days later, Viktor Orbán, the Prime Minister, was wounded in a football training? He was operated. He couldn't walk for some days. Is it by chance that in the agenda of the Prime Minister we could find the renewal of this shrine? Is it by chance that I was asked to replace him at the ceremonies? Is it by chance that at that very day my agenda was not overcrowded? It is only some days before the sports injury of the Prime Minister, we put down the cornerstone of this shrine. Some years later, in 2015, on Pentecost, the Laudato Si encyclical was published, the subtitle of which is the taking care of their common home. At the end of the encyclical, we can see the Canticle of Son of Saint Francis of Assisi. As you know, he speaks about sisters and brothers of natural elements. Amongst you, there are young people. The older people here could see the film made by Franco Zeffirelli, Brother, Sun, and Sister Moon. But I propose for the young people to see this film. Laudato Si. On the page 132, we can find the prayer by Pope Francis, a prayer for our earth. All-powerful God, you are present in the whole universe and in the smallest of your creatures. You embrace with your tenderness all that exists. Pour out upon us the power of your love, that we may protect life and beauty. Fill us with peace, that we may live as brothers and sisters, harming no one. O God of the poor, help us to rescue the abandoned and forgotten of this earth, so precious in your eyes. bring healing to our lives, that we may protect the world and not prey on it, that we may sow beauty, not pollution and destruction. Touch the hearts of those who look only for gain at the expense of the poor and the earth. Teach us to discover the worth of each thing, to be filled with awe and contemplation, to recognize that we are profoundly united with every creature as we journey towards your infinite light. We thank you for being with us each day. Encourage us, we pray, in our struggle for justice, love, and peace. I'd like to repeat only one sentence of this prayer, and after at the third part of my presentation, perhaps it will not be an exaggeration to remember to this sentence. We are in close unity with all created beings towards a journey to your eternal light. The second part, second story. It's a general experience that our life is speeded up and our speech is speeded up. We take less care to the rules of Hungarian language, to the way of speaking. It's not by chance that the artists have trainings for speaking, rhetorics. Even the politicians needs this training. I'm not exception either. If somebody wants to see a touching story about the struggling of a problem of speaking, what big struggle is it? See the film about the king, the speech of the king, who is the father of the current queen. This film won an Oscar Prize. My speaking teacher is Ágnes Vadász. She often gives me difficult texts, poems as well. If you want to try yourself out, take the novel József and His Brothers, written by Thomas Mann, and open it where he would like to. He will find sentences which are consisted of 28 lines. During our training program, we took parts of novels, poems, from religious poems. In my second presidential cycle, once, perhaps it was an inspiration, a divine inspiration, it popped into my mind that why not to publish a book where we can find these poems. Ágnes Vadász, my trainer, was completely enthusiastic. First, they edited the book. The title of the book was Looking at the Sky. The subtitle was The Presence of God in the Hungarian Poetry. We introduced this book together with Cardinal Péter Erdő. This is the book, Looking at the Sky, The Presence of God in Hungarian Poetry. In this compilation, the authors are different in style, in way of thinking, in attitude, and in religion. They are introverted, extroverted, preaching, fighting-minded.
Nyílt vallomástevő és félve kétkedő. Hálaadó.
So there are people who express their gratitude. There are many who deliver their saying with various meanings. There are certain people who try to find some peace. And, well, the editor wanted to just organize and structure these excerpts alongside various topics like knowledge, love, etc., etc. And here, let me take a side note. So not each and every poems about God can be found in this booklet, because, of course, Hungarian literature is much richer than that. And side note number 2, Agnes Vadász, during our first class, said that whenever I'm reciting a poem, I should recite it as a piece of prose. So it's not real reciting. Well, in this book, there are various poems written by famous Hungarian poet Attila József. And I'm sure many of you can recollect some of your memories from primary and secondary school when Attila József was characterized as a proletarian poet, and none of his poems focusing on God were mentioned in our text booklet. However, I have chosen a poem by him entitled God Was Standing Here Behind My Back. Let me recite the poem. God was standing here behind my back, and I went around the world in search of him. I, on all fours, my God, he chose to stand. He did not lift me, just watched me from the skies. This is freedom. He made me understand that still within me there's strength enough to rise. He helped me by not helping from above. Through flame there can be, its ashes can't be left. For every truth there also is a love. Fact is, he left me. I'm alone, bereft. My body is weak. Fear keeps my harm at bay. Yet I await my partner, smile on my face, for I believe that faithfulness is the way in a world that lurches in the void of space. When this book was published, at the end of the year, every single year during Advent, bishops serving in Hungary and Hungarian bishops serving on the other sides of the border, they have a reception. I'm the host of this reception, and at the end of this year we also had a similar gathering when this book was published, and on my right there was Cardinal Égre, and on my left there was István Szabó, Bishop of the Reformed Church, and I was overjoyed to inform Bishop on my left. And I mentioned him that one of my favorite poems is the previously recited poem from Attila József, and I started to recite the first 2 lines, namely, God was standing here behind my back, and I went around the world in search of him. And he looked at me and simply said, and why didn't you turn back? Part number 3. My original intention was to provide you with an answer to the question how a poet or a painter, or whether a poet and a painter could give the same answer to the same question. And then preparing to this speech, I thought that you might be interested in the relationship between faith and science. So let me start with a side note, a lecture of Tamás Freund came into my mind. You have to know about Tamás Freund, that he is a neurosurgeon, a great scientist, and currently he is president of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences. And in one of his lectures, he tried to figure out and explain how difficult operation happens in between the nerves in order to create or compose a piece of music. And then, you know, we should also focus on the question how life is created, how out of simple materials living organisms are created, how cells can put up human beings, and whether evolution and creation can coexist. And I'm sure you know that there are some people who laugh about the story of the creation. Some years ago, there was a book published in Hungarian as well, the book of Francis Collins, entitled The Alphabet of God. Francis Collins is head of an important network in the United States. He is a scientist in biochemistry and works with genetics, and he is also heading a project focusing on the human genome. The Hungarian to the Hungarian publication and translation of this book, Tamás Freund wrote the forewords, and he focused on an idea from Darwin. And this is an idea that is never, ever mentioned by those Darwinists who are against the idea of creation. And the sentence says, "Isn't it fantastic, isn't the idea fantastic that our Creator originally created its creatures in a limited numbers, and then from this simple origin so many fantastic forms have evolved." I'm sure that you have never heard this quote before. Well, Collins So it is also in the central point. It is also a central point of this booklet. So God used. So God, in the dimensions of space and time, and with the help of physical rules and principles, is always with us. And you know, the entire word is through Him, by Him. And they can also read in these forewords, "I do confess that human brain has become able to accept God's spirit, moral principles, being conscious about good and bad, and alongside with this, the strive to understand the living God and the very roots of our existence." So this was written by the current president of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences. Ladies and gentlemen, now you could witness when a side note can become the main direction of a speech. But let's get back to the original question. So the question is whether Salvador Dali and Sándor Vörös can have the same message, namely a painter and a poet, a painting and a poem. Although it's quite distant, but if you have a look at this painting by Salvador Dali, and of course, here I'm not an art historian, I'm simply speaking about my own impressions. So if you have a look at this painting, then the first thing that comes into our mind is that, you know, in the majority of pictures depicting the crucifixion of Christ, the cross is rooted in the ground and we can see the broken body of Christ. But here it's not the same. So here in this painting, crucifixion becomes cosmic. So at the same time, we can experience the horror of crucifixion, the strength of the raising of Christ, and the mystery that is included therein. And we cannot see the apostles, but we can see the stone in which or on which the house is to be built. And there is Christ returning to his Father, who, with the help and through his preachings, will always remain with his followers. I do not know whether Hungarian poet Sándor Vörös was familiar with this painting, but for me, a poem by him expresses exactly the same opinion. Unfortunately, we do not have an official translation to this poem, but the poem says that the upper part of the cross is pointing at the sky, at the heavens, and it speaks about the good news, namely, this is your way, this is your path. And the two arms of the cross carry very weak arms, blooded, and beware, the soul is a guard, even if the body can be broken. There are two directions, but you are free. You are free. And the bottom part of the cross points at the ground. So this is the place where you should dig a well, and please have and look at the reflection of your face in it. So this was the literary, not literary, but a road translation of the poem. So, ladies and gentlemen, if last year we could have met at the original date and time of this Congress, then I would stop this speech of mine here. However, now we've been over the third wave of the global pandemic. We do not know when the fourth is coming. More than 30,000 fellow citizens of ours have lost their lives, young and old, and we know of 600 families, their children under the age of 18 lost both their parents. More than 1,000 children have become orphans, and through the media we could hear about so many horrific stories. And one night we had a discussion with my wife that we need to do something. Let's establish a foundation for the orphan children. You know, although the love of the lost parent cannot be replaced, but of course legal and material subsidization and help could be provided indeed. And we did know that not a one-off subsidy would be required for these children, but something continuous. And my wife undertook to be coordinator of this foundation. You know, we had various ideas, and then a colleague of mine made a very nice initiative about the name of the foundation. What about giving the name of István Regőci to this foundation? István Regőci used to be a Hungarian priest. About Father Regőci, you have to know that by the end of the First World War, his family had become deprived, and he had to live in a home for poor people. Then he moved to Belgium and returned back to Hungary, and he wanted to become a priest. He was ordained in 1943. After the Second World War, he had churches and orphanages built, numerous. In 1949, he had to go to the court, and then he was imprisoned In 1969, he was convicted once more for 20 months of imprisonment, out of which 13 was spent in prison by him. And he called his orphans little eaglings. And he has a very nice booklet about the story of his life, and he passed away at the age of 97. And we named our foundation after him. And since the establishment of our foundation, we have heard an ever-increasing number of sad stories, out of which I'd like to mention 3 to you. A husband whose wife was an expectant mother. The mother died, but the child was saved. Now, the father is a single father of 7 children, including the infant baby, a young child without grandparents and with a single mother, and his single mother also died. He has been admitted to the university, to the Medical University of Budapest, and has no material resources. 4 children who were raised by their grandparents because previously they lost their parents, and then in the pandemic they also lost their grandparents, and they only have an aunt to look after them. If anyone dealing with charity, then of course the question is raised: are we doing it well? Do we help in a proper manner? Do we help those who are most in need? Can we provide them with timely help? And, it's very good if we receive feedback, not necessarily the expression of gratitude. Of course, it also comes handy. Well, there's a widow mother, and let me quote from a letter written by her. Dear colleagues, it was the 8th of March, Wednesday, International Women's Day. However, this day will never ever have this meaning. My coronavirus test turned out to be positive, and in just a matter of days, I felt extremely ill. And the same applied to my husband, but unfortunately, my husband deceased. So after 25 years spent together, I remained alone with my 16-year-old son. We were in ruins. Our entire lives were in ruins, and I felt that there's no way to continue. And now I praise the Lord that I could experience what was mentioned by Hungarian poet Endre Adi in his poem Arrival of the Lord. And here I quote: "When they had left me, dragging my burdened soul alone, dejected, God embraced me, and his touch was quiet, unexpected. There was no fanfare. He came with a quiet, true embrace," and more. So this is the quote, and this poem can also be found in the previously mentioned book. And this widowed mother, as if continuing this poem with prose, in prose, she says, "There he came and has given me the mercy to experience that we are not alone. He has spent his angels. Some of them simply embraced me. There were others who sang hymns with me. There were some who listened to me attentively. There were some who led me by my hand. There were some who hugged me and embraced me with active help." What can be the conclusion of these stories? And what kind of testimony can be drawn from these stories? Many think that God lends them a helping hand by sitting next to them on a bank or walking by their side in the street and raising the question, "How can I help you?" Well, searching for God Welcoming God means active faithfulness. You know, faithfulness cannot be passive. We do have signs every single day, and it only depends on us whether we consider them a story or a preaching. It depends on me whether I think that it was just a simple coincidence or the work of God. Well, my testimony says that if you live according to the rules of the Lord, if you use your talents given to you by the Lord, if in your heart, in your soul, in your acts, you try to find the Lord, then you're going to find him.
Köszönjük szépen köztársasági elnök úr szavait.
Thank you for the words of the President of the Republic of Hungary.
Már levették rólam a mikroportot. A kollégák azt mondták,
So my colleague told me
jöjjek vissza a színpadra.
to come back to the
Engem még
stage.
sose tapsoltak vissza.
I was not applauded back. I have never been applauded back.
Köszönöm, hogy itt voltak.
Thank you for
Figyelmük megtisztelő volt számomra.
coming here. It was a great honor to be with you. God bless you.